Imagine this. You meet someone who seems just out of reach, unpredictable, elusive. They don't always respond, they don't always show up. And yet, you can't stop thinking about them. Now flip it. You text first, you're always available, you're always there, and suddenly, they lose interest. Why does this happen? It's not random. It's psychology, one of the darkest, most powerful strategies ever used by leaders, seducers, and manipulators throughout history. A strategy that doesn't just grab attention, it makes people obsessed. And here's the unsettling truth. It's not your presence that makes you valuable, it's your absence. Because the moment something becomes scarce, it becomes desirable. Think about it. The luxury item you can't afford, the lover who pulls away, the opportunity that suddenly disappears. We want what we can't have. And that's exactly why, if you know when to disappear and how to reappear, you can control how people perceive you. So, how do you use this to your advantage? How do you vanish strategically without being forgotten? Let's break it down. This isn't just theory. Some of the most powerful figures in history have mastered this strategy. Take Napoleon Bonaparte. At the height of his reign, Napoleon knew when to step back, when to retreat, not as an act of defeat, but as a calculated move. And each time he returned, his presence carried even more weight, making people crave his leadership. Or look at Steve Jobs. In 1985, he was forced out of Apple, the very company he built. But instead of lingering in the background, Jobs disappeared. And when he made his comeback years later, he was stronger, more respected, and more powerful than ever before. His return wasn't just a comeback, it was a rebirth. And then there's Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and emperors of Rome. He understood something crucial. Distance creates respect. He wasn't a ruler who sought constant attention. Instead, he embraced restraint, silence, and strategic absence, which only deepened the loyalty and admiration of his people. Now, here's the real question. What do all these men have in common? They knew that constant presence breeds familiarity, and familiarity kills value. They understood that to become unforgettable, you have to be scarce. And that's exactly what we're going to uncover in this video. How can you use strategic absence to become more respected, more desired, and more powerful? Well, this isn't just some modern-day trick. Some of history's most powerful and charismatic figures have used this exact strategy to increase their influence, their desirability, and their power. Let's take a look at how they did it, so you can do the same. Strategy 1. Why disappearing at the right time makes you more attractive. Let me ask you this. Why do people desire what they can't have? Why is it that the moment something becomes scarce, it suddenly becomes more valuable? This isn't just a feeling, it's science. There's a well-documented psychological principle called the scarcity effect. Studies show that when something is limited, unavailable, or hard to obtain, the brain automatically assigns it a higher value. Think about limited edition sneakers. They sell out in minutes, not because they're necessarily better, but because they're rare. Think about exclusive clubs. People aren't drawn to them because they have the best drinks, but because not everyone can get in. And think about relationships. People often chase the ones who seem just out of reach, while overlook the ones who are always available. Why? Because the less accessible something is, the more we want it. In 1975, researchers Wurchel, Lee, and Adewale conducted an experiment using cookies in a jar. They placed two identical jars in front of participants. One was full of cookies. The other had only a few left. Which one did people rate as more valuable? The jar that was nearly empty, even though the cookies were exactly the same. The takeaway: people instinctively assign more value to things that appear scarce, even if there's no logical reason. And this applies directly to you. So how can you apply this principle to your personal life, relationships, and even your career? Here's what you shouldn't do. Don't be constantly available, whether it's in dating, friendships, or social situations. Don't overexpose yourself. When you flood people with your presence, you become predictable. Don't always say yes. Scarcity doesn't just apply to presence, it applies to energy and attention too. Instead, here's how you create strategic scarcity. Checkmark. Be intentional with your presence. Show up when it matters, but don't overstay your welcome. Disappear before you become too familiar. Leave people wanting more, not less. Control the rhythm of your interactions. Instead of being predictable, create gaps of absence that make people anticipate your return. Because remember this, it's not about cutting people off. It's about making your presence meaningful. But there's an even deeper layer to this, because it's not just about being absent. It's about what people don't know about you while you're gone. Some of the most powerful, magnetic individuals in history have something in common. They're mysterious. And that mystery keeps people hooked. Let me show you why. Now that you understand the psychology behind scarcity, let's go even deeper. Because if you really want to increase your perceived value, there's a timeless power strategy you need to know. Let's talk about Robert Greene's Law of Absence. Strategy 2. Absence increases value. Robert Greene's Law 16. If you've ever read The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, you'll know about Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. This law is brutally effective because it taps into one of the most fundamental truths about human nature. People appreciate what they don't always have access to. Familiarity breeds indifference. Scarcity creates desire. But here's the key. Absence must be strategic. How absence creates power and respect? Look at history and you'll see a pattern. The most powerful leaders, the most respected figures, and the most admired individuals all knew when to step back. Too much exposure dilutes power, but a well-timed disappearance, that makes people value you more. Napoleon Bonaparte. After his exile to Elba, the world thought he was finished. But when he returned, he was greeted with more loyalty than ever before. His temporary absence made his presence even more powerful. Steve Jobs. After being pushed out of Apple in 1985, Jobs vanished from the company. But when he returned in 1997, his comeback transformed Apple into one of the most valuable brands in the world. Celebrities and artists, think of music icons who disappear between albums. When they finally return, anticipation is at its peak, making them even more legendary. So how do you use this strategy? In relationships, don't always be available. Distance builds attraction. Give people the space to miss you. In social settings, don't overexpose yourself. Be exclusive, not excessive. Make your presence feel like an event. In your career, if you're always seen, people take you for granted. Strategic absence makes your return more powerful. But here's the most important part. You don't just disappear, you reappear at the right time, stronger than before. But what if you could go beyond just being respected? What if you could make people obsessed with you without even trying? That's where the power of controlled scarcity comes in. Strategy 3. The art of scarcity, how to make people addicted to you. Now that you understand the power of absence, let's take it one step further, because it's not just about disappearing. It's about creating scarcity, a strategy that marketing geniuses, master seducers, and power players have been using for centuries. The dark psychology of scarcity. Ever wonder why luxury brands never flood the market? Why do people crave limited edition products? Or why is it that the moment someone pulls away, we suddenly want them more? It's scarcity. Scarcity triggers obsession because the brain sees rare things as more valuable. This is hardwired into human psychology. Luxury brands, Rolex, Ferrari, Birkin bags, the reason they're so desirable, they control supply. People chase what they think they can't have. Dating and relationships. Ever noticed how the person who's least available is the most desired? People are drawn to mystery and unpredictability. Social media and influencer tactics. Some influencers limit their online presence to create intrigue. When they post, it feels like an exclusive event. Business and negotiation. The phrase, "I'm busy," instantly increases your value. When something is hard to get, people want it even more. So, how can you use this to your advantage? In relationships, stop always responding instantly. Make your attention a reward, not a given. In social interactions, be selective with your time. People value what they have to work for. In business, offer exclusive access or limited opportunities to create demand. On social media, instead of posting constantly, post rarely but powerfully. Make your presence an event. The key is controlled scarcity. Pull away just enough to increase desire, but never so much that people move on. So now, you know how to disappear strategically, and how to use scarcity to keep people hooked. But what if you could combine both? What if you could vanish and reappear in a way that makes you unforgettable? That's exactly what we'll cover next. Strategy 4. Why smart people always remain mysterious. Let me ask you this. Have you ever met someone who never reveals too much? Someone who doesn't overshare, who keeps a certain air of mystery, and because of that you can't stop thinking about them? That's not an accident. It's a strategy. Because here's a truth about human psychology. What we don't fully understand, we obsess over. When something is unclear, unpredictable, or just out of reach, the brain works overtime trying to figure it out. And that's exactly why some of the most charismatic, influential, and irresistible people in history never reveal too much about themselves. Psychologists call this the Scarcity Effect, a phenomenon where the brain fixates on unfinished or unresolved things. That's why a song that cuts off suddenly stays in your head. That's why a movie with an open ending leaves you thinking for days. And that's why people who don't fully reveal themselves become the most intriguing figures in any room. When someone is an open book, you stop wondering about them. But when someone leaves blanks, your mind fills in the gaps, and in doing so, creates an image of them far greater than reality. That's the power of mystery. Historical figures who mastered mystery: Leonardo da Vinci, a man of endless talents, but never fully understood. His silence made people see him as larger than life. Marilyn Monroe, always seductive, yet never fully known. People didn't just desire her, they were captivated by her. Elon Musk, shares just enough to keep people engaged, but always holds something back, keeping the world guessing about his next move. Mystery creates power, and if you know how to use it, people will never forget you. How to build mystery without becoming distant. Now, here's how you apply this in real life. Don't over-explain yourself. When people ask about you, say less than expected. Let them wonder. Be selective with your presence. Speak when necessary, but when you do, make it matter. Master the art of controlled silence. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply a pause. Always leave a little unanswered. Let people fill in the gaps about you on their own. Because remember, the less you reveal, the more they want to know. And that brings us to the final and most powerful strategy of all: how to disappear and re-emerge with even more power. The greatest figures in history didn't just exist. They controlled when and how they appeared. Because sometimes it's not about what you do. It's about when you do it. If you know how to vanish strategically, you can reappear stronger, more valuable, and more powerful than ever before. This is the art of disappear and re-emerge, a tactic used by the most influential minds in history. The strategy of disappearing and returning with more power. Michael Jordan retired at his peak, creating a vacuum of desire. When he returned, his comeback wasn't just celebrated, it was legendary. Steve Jobs removed from Apple only to return and revolutionize the tech industry. His absence made the world realize his true value. Julius Caesar. After being captured by pirates, he didn't just escape. He came back and wiped them out, solidifying his reputation. Disappearing the right way doesn't make you forgotten. It makes you irreplaceable. How to disappear and return with even more power. 1. Step away at the right time. Leave before you become too familiar. Whether in relationships, business, or social settings, withdraw while people still want more. 2. Make your absence felt. Don't just disappear. Leave behind an impact that lingers. People should notice when you're gone. 3. Re-emerge with a transformation. When you come back, don't be the same. Be better, sharper, more powerful. Let people see that your absence wasn't just a break, it was an evolution. Because the greatest power move isn't just knowing when to be present, it's knowing when to be absent. So now you have a choice. You can keep showing up the same way, every day, slowly fading into the background. Or you can strategically disappear and return as someone they will never, ever forget. The choice is your. Let's get one thing straight. Being everywhere, all the time, doesn't make you powerful. It makes you forgettable. The truth is, people don't remember what's always in front of them. They remember what they can't have. They remember what disappears. They remember what leaves them wanting more. And that's why the most powerful people, the ones who hold attention, respect, and influence, don't chase. They control. They control their presence. They control their absence. And in doing so, they control how the world sees them. Now, the real question is, will you? Right now you have two choices. You can keep doing what everyone else does, showing up all the time, making yourself too accessible, watching as your value fades. Or you can master the art of strategic disappearance. You can learn how to pull back, how to create demand, how to become unforgettable, not by being present more, but by being present less. So tell me, are you going to keep chasing, or are you ready to step into a new level of power where people chase you? Drop a in the comments if you're ready to stop being overlooked and start being remembered. This is just the beginning. If you want to learn more psychological tactics to make people obsessed with you, if you're ready to take full control over how others perceive you, then click on the next video right now, because the real game starts there, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.